Hello, folks. What's up? And welcome to the Nerdy Cricketer.
Hello, everyone.
And
Episode 5.
Ayar.
What's up?
Episode 6 now.
6. Okay. 6. Fair enough.
So
lost count already. All right. Today is Lucknow.
Lucknow.
All right.
You have to about Lucknow, Ayar.
Yeah. So look, I think I must say that. Okay. So before we go into the team, right? They are this sort of support staff includes Andy Flower, Gautam Gambhir, Vijay Daya, Andy Bickle. So they've got a bunch of people who have coached teams before. They've done it with success. Gambhir has sort of had the, experience in bringing a team from, base level to scratch to like a good level. So is Andy Flowers. So got some good coaching / support staff in there. From an auction perspective, I must say at the end of it, I must say that when they started with the retentions, I was a little bit skeptical because the first thing they did was to sort of pay 10 crores for Marcus Stoinis. So I was a bit surprised then. Although I think Bishnoi for 4 was a good buy for them. I do think we would have gone for more in the auction. But, once the auction is over, I think that they are the one team that I can say, at least on paper, done really well. They've got all their bases covered. Obviously, along the way, they were helped by some really good buys. Like Holder for 8 crores is, I think, a good buy, because he's an all-rounder who will definitely give you 4 and more often than not can do well with the bat. I think Quinton de Kock for 6.7 was another steal for them relatively because he's been enormously successful and he's a very good wicket-keeping opening batsman. Although they had one of that already, but I think they've been going with Quinton keeping, and so it was clearly a very good buy. Chamira for 2 crores, another one I feel they really sort of did well. He went for a bit more than that for RCB last year. And then even in the Indian contingent, right, like the fact that Bishnoi, they kept him for 4 and Huda for 5.7, can bowl a bit, bats okay. So I think they've done pretty well in the auction. What I really like about them is that they've covered all their bases, and that will be evident when you go into the playing 11. Now, just before the IPL started, they lost Mark Wood, who was, I think they paid 7.5 crores for. Now, unlike Chennai, when they lost Chahar and they seem a bit sort of lost, these guys already have Chamira, who's a very similar bowler, to replace Wood, like pace, bounce, sort of short pitched, fast bowler. And you can already see that they've thought it through, like any one of their players sort of breaks down, they've got replacements for them, which I think is no other team has actually managed to get this level of, backups and, all their bases covered. Not to say that everything is covered, but I think in general, they've done very well overall. In terms of the money spread, right? I don't see them. As I said, they have spent the big bucks for a few players. KL Rahul, Avesh Khan, Marcus Stoinis, Krunal, Holder, Quinton, relatively, big bucks, but they're all decently good players. Like I think, I don't think they've wasted money on anyone. Like some of the other teams, you would see that they've spent that 8 or 10 crores on a player that is not well proven. For that matter, I don't think Lucknow has done that. Like I don't think any of Lucknow's picks. Maybe Stoinis, you were a bit surprised. We were all a bit surprised he got retained, but he is at the end of the day a good player. So he did well for Delhi. So apart from that, I think there are no eyebrow raising auction purchases there. They've got lucky, of course, but I don't see them buying any rash buys. They've got a decent number of Indian uncapped players as well for base price, literally everyone. One of whom, a couple of them already played in the first game. So they clearly, they're going to rely on some of them through the season. And I think they've picked some good picks. A couple of the guys from Delhi.
Promising, in fact. Ayush
Badoni. Yes. Ayush Badoni. Mohsin Khan also seemed quite good. He's a left-arm bowler. I think he lacks a bit of pace, but in general, he can, if he gets the right amount of mentorship, like say under Andrew Bickle or someone, he can develop into a good bowler. So maybe let's go into the playing 11, right? Just to illustrate what I'm saying, to sort of realize that, the bases are well covered.
Sure.
Um,
In fact, sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
only
no, of course.
I've got 2 points that I had
Yes.
questions on. One was, so Krunal being as much more than Deepak Hooda, where of course no personal rivalries that I'll be mentioning here, but do you think he's more valuable than Hooda in terms of cricketing value or more in terms of branding value? That's my first. And the second is when you're paying 11 crore for Stoinis, do you think he would have gone for that much in the auction? DC would probably have gone for him, but 11 crore, I don't know. Because given equivalent all-rounders, international all-rounder, one of the most expensive buys was Lockie Ferguson. So that's the
No, so to your first question, right?
Hmm,
On whether Huda is more, I think Huda's been around in the IPL for a while.
hmm,
He hasn't really set the stage on fire.
hmm.
He has been that sort of, winning. I think he was in Punjab, right? He was winning them a few, or RCB, like he was in one
Uh,
of those teams. Or he
prior to
probably
that,
was in both
SRH,
over the years.
SRH and then
SRH. So he
Punjab.
hasn't, he hasn't really sort of set the stage on fire.
Hmm,
Although he's experienced,
hmm,
he did play for India recently, but I don't think that was just because he was a great sort of batting sort of thing. I think India is desperately looking for that all-rounder who can give them that sixth bowling option, right? So they have been trying people like Huda and Venki and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the reasons that he got a couple of games for India. But look, looking at his T20 statistics, right? His average is 24, 25, strike rate of 140, 150, and he's been around for at least 3 to 4 years, if I remember it. And I'm just checking his thing. He's played for Punjab, he's played for SRH, he's played for Rajasthan, so he's been around. Krunal has won more games than Huda in the past, and he has that legacy value, which is why he went for more money. Although I think Krunal is on a bit of a downward trajectory, and Huda is on a bit of an upward trajectory. So in 3 years' time, I think if this continues, I think Huda will be worth more. Krunal, the one thing is he can give you 4 overs more often than not. Whereas Huda, I would say 2 overs is the max. You saw in the last game, he bowled 2 good overs, and the third over he just fell apart. He went for 25 in his third over. So I think Huda is a 2-over bowler. He's not a 4-over bowler. So I don't have an issue that he went for less than Krunal.
Right.
Your second question on Marcus Stoinis, logically speaking, no, he should not have gone for 11 in the auction. But if you look at the auction and see if you take the top 5 or 7 buys that you think you don't understand, as you feel that, okay, these players have got a lot of money, most of them are all-rounders. I mean, whether you look at Romario Shepherd, who went for about 8 crores, or you look at someone like Abhishek Sharma, who went for 6 crores, or Odin Smith, although he's the next big thing, as people say, but he's just an untested commodity. I mean, he just swings his bat and he's powerful. But he's not really proven anything yet. Same for Liam Livingstone. He's a bit of an all-rounder. So, the one category of player that has gone for a lot of money has always been the all-rounder. So logically speaking, no, should not have gone for 11 crores Stoinis. But in that auction environment, I think he's a bit better than some of the others that have gone for much more, big chunks of money. So you never know what would have come out of the auction. I think that's the one questionable pick, I would say, in terms of the money for Lucknow. But it gives them that solid core.
True.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
You're paying for that stability and someone who's relatively young and someone who you need to sort of anchor the innings /finish /power hit, depending on the situation. So let's look at the playing 11, right? And this is sort of where this sort of brings me to my point of why I think they're a very well balanced side. They've got KL Rahul, Quinton de Kock, definitely one of the best opening pairs of this IPL. Switch on my light here.
Might say otherwise, but yeah, of course, most days.
I think it's a good pair. It's a good pair, on paper. I mean, look, everything that we're discussing now is on paper, right? So this might completely unravel. I think, let's see. They've got a good backup, Evan Lewis. I think, he's clearly a very destructive player who can replace one of the two if they have an injury issue or something like that. The two can also wicket keep. So, there's that sort of flexibility as well.
Hmm.
The two of them can also captain, in the sense either of them can be a captain if somebody gets injured, say, so that they've covered that base. Manish Pandey at 3, I think is sort of, Manish has been that 110, 120 sort of player in SRH, where he's had to bat with a bunch of these Indian rookies like, Priyam Garg or Abhishek Sharma or Abdul Samad. So maybe that's what's weighing down on his performance and has forced him to go at 120. I think he works well with Gambhir. Even in the past, if he was in KKR, if I'm not mistaken, he's done well with Gambhir and they get along very well. So I think this might be the season where he can actually flourish, because, I don't think he's got that, just where Manish is in his career. I think he's clearly doesn't have the ambition. I mean, he has the ambition, but he knows he's not going to play for India anymore. I don't see him coming back anyway. He's got a couple of years, 3 to 4 years. He's like 32, 33, if I'm not wrong. So he's got 2 to 3 years left.
Same batch as Kohli in the under-19. So
yeah, so he's 31, 32, right? So he's got 3 to 4 years left. So he's like Rahane, he's like, no weight on his shoulders. Just go out there. You've got a very strong team. So I think this season can be that sort of. Let's see which sort of Manish Pandey we see. It would be nice to see him sort of go back to his original attacking player rather than that sort of anchor. He wasn't even a good anchor. So but SRH just wasn't a team that had the ability that an anchor works if you've got other people around you who can play. I think let's see how he goes. Manan Bora is a backup again. That's what I say, right? They've got a very good backups for everyone. Like not the same quality, but Manan Bora has been around for a while as well, 3 to 4 years. So experienced Indian player. Again, hasn't done anything much, but he has the experience of playing in the IPL, and he's not going to be someone who's completely sort of new, right? Then, and by the way, you also got like Ayush Badoni, right? Who can replace one of these guys if you really look at it. Like
I think it's a strong.
I think you've got Ayush Badoni as well. So that's sorry, what did you say?
I said Ayush Badoni has a strong caliber, and Gambhir's backed him quite a lot.
Gambhir has also spoken a bit about him. He's quite optimistic about this guy. So let's see. He gave him a chance. First match, I think he played well. Until he's going to play a few games until Stoinis joins the team. Stoinis is, I think, out for the Pakistan series, so he's going to miss the first 3 to 4 games. So until then, Ayush will play, and who knows, right? In 5 games, maybe Pandey flops in all of them, and Ayush just clicks, and then when Stoinis comes, Ayush stays and Pandey goes. So let's see. Could happen, right?
Right.
For the number 4 slot, I mean, you've got Stoinis as a backup. You also got Kyle Mayers, who's also sort of a seam bowling all-rounder. I mean, he just took a 5-wicket haul for West Indies in the Test matches. He's not the same caliber as Stoinis, but sort of gives that power hitter / medium pacer. So again, it's a like for like sort of overseas all-rounder sort of replacement. Got him 50 lakhs, very good pick. Number 5, I mean, you've got Deepak Huda or Mayank Yadav. You can pick anyone. I mean, not Mayank Yadav. I mean, Mayank Yadav is a fast bowler, but you can go for Deepak Huda or Manan Bora or Ayush Badoni. So you've got a bunch of these guys. Deepak Huda can give you a few overs, couple of overs, I think, with the ball.
Might just play the season this season.
I think so. Yeah, he will play the whole season. I think Huda will play the whole season unless he completely flops in one way. I see him that he sort of made it to the Indian team. He has to play the whole season.
No Baroda here, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Jason Holder just walks in, number 6. I think 4-over bank. Krunal, number 7. Nothing to worry about there. Avesh Khan again. Number 8 to 11. I think the batting order. I'm not. This is just who they will be, but they will bat it. They can bat it in here. I think neither of them can bat, so it doesn't matter which order they come in. One of the overseas bowlers slot, I think Chamira will play all the games. No doubt about that. If Mark Wood was available, Mark Wood have played. But this is where I think the backup sort of selection has been good, right? Mark Wood is out, and you already see Chamira is like a like-for-like swap, slightly lower quality, but he's also a very good, very quick bowler. There is this one slot which they will have to fill with an Indian bowler. But I'm not too worried about it in Lucknow's case because they've got enough backup for him. So they've got Krunal, they've got Jason Holder, they've got Stoinis, they've got Huda. So, if this number 8 sort of Indian bowler doesn't particularly stack up well, they have enough backup options to fall back on. I think Avesh, Chamira, Bishnoi, Krunal, and Holder in itself is a solid 20-over thing. So this one, I would ideally like them to. I know they played Mohsin in the first game, but this one, ideally, they would like to play someone who can bat a little bit. So, but I don't think they have that particular option. So they might just stick with Mohsin Khan or Ankit Rajput, one of the Indian uncapped. But this is by far, if this is the sixth team we're analyzing, right? Like this is the one team where I struggle to find, at least on paper, that sort of holds, right, in their setup. Let's look at the points of concern. Death bowling is one. Holder is not a good bowler in the death. He's pretty bad up, in the death. He always gets smashed. Chamira as well. He's a very good bowler up front, but in the death, when he bowls those short pitch lifters, they can fly off the edge and go for 6 or 4. So I'm a bit suspect of him in the death. He's still sort of developing in that skill set, but we'll see. Andrew Tai is a sorry.
Avesh, would you probably consider him as a death bowler, or are you just holding him strong as a middle?
No, I think in this team setup, he will have to bowl in the death because I don't see who else will. I think what's going to happen is Holder is going to end up starting to bowl in the death. But very soon they will realize that he's not a good death bowler. I mean, he's a nice, I know he took 4 wickets off 4 balls recently in the West Indies in the death, but that wasn't a death bowling situation. I think it was the match situation was slightly different. So they will have to go. I mean, Holder will, although, bowl in the death eventually because they need 2 people to bowl, right? And one might be Avesh, and one might just be Holder.
Or once he's back, maybe he'll chip in, because that's what he did for DC towards the end of his career. Oh, well, not career, end of last IPL.
As in, yeah, you could, yeah.
So, but yeah, of course, we are talking about 4 or 5.
Yeah. So I think the death bowling is the one thing which is the exact concern, which is a big concern for them. The rest, I think, can be managed. The other things, right? Like, I think that's what I say. It depends on which Manish Pandey shows up. It depends on which KL Rahul shows up. In the event that you have Quinton de Kock going out early and you have KL and Manish getting stuck in there, you're talking about a 10 overs, 50 for 1. Right? And then how do you then get out of it? And because there is power in the back end, but it's not a lot of power. Like Stoinis is the only guy who can actually accelerate. Huda is also a bit of an anchor. Jason Holder is not a power hitter. He's a steady batsman, but he's the kind of guy who can rescue a team if they're going, but they don't have solid power in the back end. Krunal's okay, but his batting form is tapered off a bit, right? So they need, for this team to work, they need KL Rahul and Manish Pandey to play with freedom. Because I don't think they have the ability to get out of a hole if they get into that 50 for 1 in 10 over situation. And then coming to my third point, I'm naturally leading into it, is the question of who's the finisher, right? Which is what I'm saying. I think they don't have a clear, I mean, Stoinis will have to play that role, but if he goes for that middle over sort of power hitter role, then they might fall short of firepower at the death. And I think even in the last game, we saw that they did well up front, and then I think they sort of fell. No, I think the last game was slightly different. I mean, they sort of like, went downhill in the beginning, and then they recovered, and then they had a bit of a flourish in the end. But, there are questions to be asked there. I think Krunal is sort of struggling with his batting. So yeah, I think overall, I'm quite happy with a first-time team doing this well. I don't see them as having big holes, at least on paper. They seem to have done their research and covered their bases with decent players. Let's see. What do you think?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, they've got a very good solid 11. They've got, I think that bit that you mentioned about no finisher is quite evident, and I don't see them doing well on a 200 pitch.
Yeah.
Per se, unless they've got a 150 run partnership up top with Rahul and de Kock.
No, so
killing it.
Even on a very good batting wicket, what I suspect will happen with Lucknow is, because if the SRH Manish and the Kings 11 Rahul show up, because they will end up scoring 150 on a 200 wicket.
Yeah, I mean, Rahul, of course, has given a couple of good hundreds for Punjab, but yeah, that was when there was Mayank Agarwal at the other end. Chris Gayle came up, and maybe Sarfaraz came and gave
They
a.
had Puran, they had Sarfaraz, they had a bunch of guys who could play, who could accelerate in the back end. But they don't have that here.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, probably you'll have 1 or 2 seasons where Rahul and de Kock give that killer batting opening stand, but then they taper off. And Evan Lewis, I think they played Evan Lewis last time in the middle order, who wasn't as successful as, say, a Marcus Stoinis would
I
have.
think Evan Lewis is a decent player. I think he will find to play the odd game and he'll do fine. I mean, he's not going to set the stage on fire.
True.
But Evan Lewis' style is also the same. He starts off he doesn't tee off immediately. He takes his time. He's incredibly a very good hitter. So he takes his time and then tees off eventually. So there are times when he sort of soaks up their 10 balls and then gets out. So like what he did in the last game, right? So there is a bit of a familiarity in the style in the first top 3 to 4.
True. So I mean,
might be a problem.
Overall, I think LSG is a great team on paper. I somehow feel they will warm up a little slowly. And I'm not, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of KL Rahul as a captain yet.
Yeah.
So, let's see how they fare up. I think a new franchise needs a good leader. Gambhir is unfortunately the one who's going to lead them, but no one on the field yet. So that's my only concern.
They have a bunch of people who have captained their own teams, like Jason Holder, but they've all been sort of similar uninspirational captains. Like Holder captained for a while and then he was removed. De Kock did the same. So we've got a bunch of these people who've just become leaders, but they're not really leaders. And one more thing, right? Closing statement from my end. I think just seeing the way Lucknow is and the fact that they're missing the two most important components, death bowling and power play hit. No, the death bowling and the finishers. What you will often happen seeing is that they will have a good first 15 overs and then they will taper off the last 5, or they will restrict the bowling batting in the first 12 to 14 overs and get thrashed in the last 6. So Lucknow is going to play those games where you'll always feel that they're in the game and they lose it at the end. Does that remind you of another team that had very similar record?
I was just going to say, you're just reminding me of the old RCB and then PBKS.
Exactly. And what's the only one thing that is common among RCB and PPKS and
actually 3
Lucknow?
Surprisingly 3 things. One is the obvious captain. Second is Ravi Bishnoi as a leg spinner. And both teams had a Gambhir coach.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Because the first
fair enough. Kumble and
was a very good coach.
Let's see. I'm optimistic about them, but I do feel that every team chooses to leave a certain few gaps because no one's going to be complete, right? So Mumbai have a power play bowling issue. Chennai has another issue like bowling. But I just feel that the gaps that Lucknow have left for them on paper are probably the most important ones. So, it's like going into an exam and getting all the 1-mark answers right and then leaving the 2 10-mark answers and coming. I don't know if that is the smartest strategy, but only time will tell.
Yeah. And I think, again, just final word was, as to your point, they've probably planned it with a good base for the future. They've got a good, strong core that they've built. And Gambhir is known for that, where he'll deliver you 2 killer seasons with a very strong base. So,
and all their players are relatively young. I mean, not young, but nobody is reaching the end of their career. Like all of this 15 to 18 players will be around for 5 years.
Yeah.
I think the oldest in this batch is probably Rahul, Holder, De Kock, and they're all going to be around 4 to 5 years. So it's not a top-heavy team from an age perspective, but which is what we've seen in some other teams, right?
True. Awesome, Mayur. Great.
Perfect.
Hopefully LSG is MSG.
Oh, well, see ya.